It is my honor to introduce our president for this year, Anne S. Sui, to deliver her presidential address. A few words about the quality, the significance of our president. Anne Sui has served our Academy with great distinction, professionalism, and grace. Among her many contributions to our Academy are her service as a representative at large of the executive committees for both the OMT Division and the OB Division, and as an outstanding member of the Academy's Board of Governors, culminating in her work as president this year. She also served as the 14th editor of the Academy of Management Journal and was elected as a Fellow of the Academy of Management in 1997. In addition to our Academy, Professor Sui has served in many other capacities, one of which is her leadership of the founding of the International Association for Chinese Management Research in 2002. This association's mission is to advance management research in and on China. In conjunction with the association and its missions, she established the journal, Management and Organization Review, which is dedicated to publishing research on Chinese management. Professor Sui's scholarly contributions have been widely recognized for their extreme level of quality. In this regard, we can note that she is a recipient of numerous research awards, including the 1998 ASQ Scholarly Contribution Award, the 1998 AMJ Best Paper Award, and the Scholarly Achievement Award from the Human Resource Division of the Academy. Professor Sui has been identified as one of the top 100 most cited researchers in business, economics, and management, and is the winner of the 2008 Center for Creative Leadership Walter F. Ulmer Jr. Applied Leadership Research Award. In addition to her extremely impressive accomplishments, we all know that Anne is an incredibly gracious, kind, and sincere individual. She cares deeply about every one of us as Academy members and about how we complete our scholarly activities. For all of these reasons and many more, for which time is not available today to mention, I am indeed deeply honored to have the honor of introducing our president to you, Anne S. Sui.
Dear friends of the Academy of Management, good morning. Thank you for being here with us today, and especially thank you for being with me at this moment. It is wonderful to see so many of you here today, showing your interest in the topic of compassion. Today's talk is a story about humanity, about us, the Academy. About sadness and joy, about desperation and hope, about our present and our future. It is a story of many wonderful stories because you are in it. And it began 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was the program chair for the meeting in Montreal, and I chose this theme, Dare to Care. The idea came to me because of what was happening in the world. At that time, the United States was still suffering from the burst of the housing bubble and the financial crisis, the financial meltdown that followed. Millions of jobs were lost, unemployment rate doubled. And the government was bailing out the banks, auto companies, and even introduced a national rescue plan. And the US financial crisis reached a global scale, and unfortunately, we're still in the midst of it today. All over the world, people are suffering, not only in the emerging economies, but in the economically advanced countries as well. I should say countries. Closer to home, we've heard many people, both inside and outside academia, criticizing business schools. There have been debates regarding the great divide between research and practice and the low relevance of our work for society. Contemplating these problems, I felt the need to be less selfish and more selfless. I can't speak for everyone, but I know personally I wasn't doing as much as I could. And all I needed to do was dare to care. Of course, what I can do as an individual is limited. Therefore, I propose the theme, Dare to Care, to challenge and invite us all to care more. Today, I am humbled that you all haven't given me this opportunity to stand here and talk to you about daring to care. In writing the speech, I constantly feared that my words would come across as being self-righteous or arrogant, that these words were assuming no one else has dared to care. Please know that is not my intent. Daring to care is a topic, as you probably can tell, that I am extremely passionate about. When I think about caring, I think about showing compassion to those who are in need or perhaps have less than I have. Everyone has a different reason to care. You might care because you want to provide a healthy environment for the children. And we care because it makes us feel good. And we care because caring is contagious, etc. As a result of my many years on this planet and my research on this topic, I have come to realize that caring or daring to care is crucial for our world. Compassion is one of the most important steps for a sustainable future, socially and environmentally. So for the duration of the next 38 minutes, please bear with me as I share with you what I have learned about caring. And I will begin with some facts about suffering in our societies, and then go into analysis with some more optimistic information about increasing instances of compassion, including corporate compassion, and some exciting research on the positive results and benefits of caring. Then I turn our attention to us, the Academy, and ask the question, what does compassion mean for us? Why should we care? When we hear the word compassion, we think about people suffering, about starving children, about people displaced by war, about those who have lost their jobs and their livelihood. And most of the people who live in poverty are absolutely blameless for their plight. For example, worldwide, there are more than 1 billion people who do not have enough food to eat. 215 million children go to work instead of school, and 3.5 million children every year die from hunger. Now, it's not only humanity that's suffering, the earth is suffering too. Pollution contaminates the air we breathe. Drought is so severe that nothing can grow, depriving people and animals of the food they need to live. Global warming is already changing our oceans, altering our weather pattern, and over time, it will change the planet itself. Where there's water pollution. A recent projection suggested that in 13 years, just 13 years, about 2/3 of the world's population will have water insecurity, and that may include some of us here in this room. So you see, the suffering planet directly affects humanity now and in the future. And this is why our past president, Susan Jackson, chose Green Management Matters as a theme for the 2009 meeting, showing her compassion for our natural environment. So every day, we see suffering on TV, in the newspapers, on our computer screens. The visual images touch our hearts. However, there's additional, equally painful suffering that's less obvious to our eyes. Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, "The most terrible poverty in our world is not the lack of food, it is the lack of love." Millions suffer from loneliness, from loss of loved ones, from depression, stress, lack of respect from their employers, from not finding meaning in the work that they do, all in life. Even among us, the Academy members, there's suffering. New members feeling lost in this huge meeting of 11,000 people. Young scholars worry about surviving the publication pressure, meeting the promotion and tenure requirements, or face repeated rejection from the journals. Some have found that in their life, instead of one in pursuit of intellectual dreams, is actually a relentless paper production machine. This kind of silent suffering is not obvious on the surface, but it is real among us. Why do we need to care about suffering, you might ask? If suffering has not moved your heart, you might want to know that it is costly in dollars and cents. Suffering in organizations is manifested in job stress, alienation, depression, and it costs corporations and the society big money. In recent years, job stress has grown because workload has increased and job security continues to decrease. In 1984, job stress cost American business $9 billion. In 1999, it is $11 billion. And this year, the American Institute of Stress estimated that job stress will carry a price tag of a staggering $300 billion as a result of accidents, absenteeism, turnover, lower productivity, medical insurance costs, and so on. Studies have shown that between 40 to 80% of US workers report stress or extreme stress at work. On average, 1 million employees are absent from work each day. Most of them are due to psychological problems related to stress. 50% of the US workforce suffer some symptoms of burnout, and 75 to 90% of the visits to doctors are stress-related. So my purpose this morning is not to get you all depressed. I promise you there's a brighter side to the story. And the brighter side is that there is increasing compassion in the world. Many people want to reduce suffering and pain of others. Most of us give something to charity. And data suggests that despite the economic downturn, compassion is increasing. And I'm going to use some data from the US to illustrate the increasing compassion in this society. Compassion can be quantified as the amount of charitable giving. So how much money do people give to charity collectively? According to Giving USA report, total giving kept increasing in the last 40 years. In 2011, total giving reached almost $300 billion. Okay, that is about $1,000 per person in the US, and it's more money than the gross domestic product of 160 of the 200 countries, some countries in the world. More money means more giving means more money available to charities. So therefore, another way to measure compassion is by how much money is actually spent on charitable activities. It should go up the same way that amount of giving has been going up, okay? And this chart shows the cumulative growth of charitable expenses from 1985 to 2009. As you can see, it is increasing over the 25 years. And more importantly, charitable expenses as an indirect measure of compassion are increasing at a faster rate than the growth of our economy. In the US, most of the charitable giving is by individuals due to our taxation system. So what about corporations? After all, according to Milton Friedman's model of the corporation, for-profit businesses should leave the philanthropy to private individuals. Yet, interestingly, corporations, they give quite a bit of money also. In 2011, corporate giving total is about $15 billion. And it's increasing over time as well. Now here I'm grateful to Chris Marcus of Harvard, who was kind enough to share his database with me on the giving of Fortune 1000 firms from 1980 to 2006. So as you can see, inflation-adjusted dollars of corporate giving increased steadily over the 27 years. Because this is a specially built database, I have not been able to find comparable data for the last 5 years. But fortunately, a group called CECP, which stands for Committee Encouraging Corporate Philanthropy, has been conducting a worldwide annual survey of corporate giving since 2001. And the 2011 survey is in collaboration with the Conference Board. And the results show that corporate giving in 2011 has returned to the pre-recession levels. And about half of the corporations in the survey increased their giving by more than 10% over the previous year. Besides money, corporations also show compassion through community engagement by organizing employee volunteering programs. A study conducted by the Center for Corporate Citizenship at Boston College reported that 90% of the surveyed Fortune 500 companies have employee volunteering programs. And overall, studies have shown that corporate volunteering to be one of the fastest growing area of voluntary activities in both North America and Europe. Now, I've been giving primarily overall statistics. So let me now give you an example of one company's compassion project. And the company is called OfficeMax. Our international members may not be familiar with this company. It sells office and school supplies. Several years ago, the management of this company discovered that school teachers were spending on average $1,000 per person per year of their own money on classroom supplies in order to offset the school's budget deficit. OfficeMax pledged to erase the teacher-funded classrooms. So in 2007, OfficeMax created a program called A Day Made Better in partnership with a nonprofit called Adopt a Classroom. Each summer, OfficeMax places A Day Made Better donation boxes at each of its 900 US stores. Teacher supplies collected then are given to the local schools as a surprise. So I hope you can imagine the faces, the happy faces of the teachers upon receiving these surprising supplies. So since 2007, A Day Made Better program has given more than $4.5 million worth of school supplies to about 4,500 classrooms and helped secure funding for more than 66,000 classrooms through donations to Adopt a Classroom. Now, as I read data like these and see companies like these, I keep asking myself this question. Why do these companies give above and beyond what is required by law? According to Milton Friedman, according to what we teach MBAs, corporations fulfill their responsibility by maximizing profitability, and to engage in any activities that detracts from shareholders' wealth is in fact socially irresponsible. After 30 years of research on corporate social responsibility, despite some skepticism, a meta-analysis has found robust evidence in a relationship between the firm's corporate social performance and its financial performance. And researchers have proposed the idea of a virtuous cycle to explain this relationship. That is, financially successful companies can afford to spend more on social activities, and social activities in turn then to help the company become a little bit more successful financially. And it certainly is possible that some companies' social activities are driven purely by the profit motive, and that is okay. Somebody is benefiting. Now, but still, why do some companies give and others don't? And if CSP, corporate social performance, results in positive financial performance, why don't more companies engage in social programs voluntarily? Could it be possible that some companies simply have more compassionate managers in their companies? And these compassionate managers are able to see the connection between doing well and doing good. In fact, the whole idea of social entrepreneurship is to combine doing well with doing good. And the data I have so far seem to suggest that many firms, including the traditional Friedman-type firms, are taking compassion seriously. Now, here's a typology of firms. The classic Friedman model firms have economic objectives primary, and compassion plays no role in that company. We've just established that many firms are deviating from the Friedman-type model firms. For them, economic objectives is primary, but compassion is becoming a contending second. And these are the caring business firms. The third are the social enterprises for which both compassion and economic objectives are primary. Lastly are the charity-oriented nonprofits that have compassion as a primary objective, economic as a secondary, which is necessary for their survival. And it's been estimated that around the world, there are 2 to 3 million of these nonprofits, the fourth type of the firms, that they are doing huge good in our societies in the area of poverty, social justice, and the environment, attempting to alleviate the suffering by people and the planet that I shared with you at the beginning of my presentation. Incidentally, many of the last two types of firms operate at the bottom of the pyramid, where the informal economy is quite active. And as you know, as Dwayne said, as you all know, the informal economy is the theme of the meeting in Boston. So you see, compassion is meaningful in most organizations, and there may be fewer and fewer the pure Friedman type of firms now. And this gives rise to important research that we can consider and conduct on the 4 types of firms, including an understanding of compassion activities in economic firms and economic activities of the compassion firms. In fact, there's an entirely new stream of research about compassion and caring that has arisen in recent years, spanning many disciplines. There are many university-based institutes focusing on research and caring, research and teaching related to compassion and caring. And let me give you just a few examples. Okay? At Stanford, the Center for Compassion, Altruism Research and Education engages in scientific inquiries that draw from the disciplines of psychology, economics, philosophy, contemplative traditions to enrich our scientific understanding of the deeper qualities of the human mind and heart. At the University of Pennsylvania, the Positive Psychology Center is studying positive individual and positive institutional traits, for the latter, such as justice, responsibility, civility, leadership, purpose, and tolerance. At Notre Dame, the Science of Generosity Project is conducting research to understand why some people engage or practice generosity and others don't. Now, at the Arizona State University, the Global Institute for Sustainability has a mission to advance research, education, and business practice for an urbanizing world. And I mention ASU not because I work there, free advertisement, but because of Eleanor Ostrom, who was one of the founding faculty leaders for the Institute. And she received the Nobel Prize for Economic Science in 2009, awarded for her work on economic governance, especially of the commons. She studied how societies develop diverse institutional arrangements and as informal governance to ensure the sustainability of scarce resources like forestry, fishery, oil fields, grazing land, irrigation systems, and to avoid ecosystem collapse. Her work is certainly a good demonstration of compassionate economics, if there's such a thing. In August 2010, a group of leading sustainability professors and business school deans from around the world gathered in Montreal at the Academy meeting to discuss the question of what contributions management education can make to create a better world. They formed a group called World Business School Council for Sustainable Business. Meanwhile, the Globally Responsible Leadership Initiative, which is a global partnership of leaders in companies and business schools, was working on a blueprint of business schools in the 21st century. And there's a third group with a similar mission, the United Nations-backed Principles of Responsible Management Education. Earlier this year, the 3 groups joined forces to create a project called 50+20, with the aim to shift management education towards the common good. It is a movement of a growing number of management education providers with a vision of management education that does not aim to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. they see a need to produce responsible leaders for a sustainable future. And this project is truly an expression of compassion for our future generations. In my quest to understand capitalism, I found out that compassion was actually important to Adam Smith, the father of modern economics and capitalism, and well known for the book, The Wealth of Nations. Less well known is his first book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments. And the opening sentences of this book set the tone and theme of the book, and allow me to just quote, to read a few sentences. He said, "How selfish soever man may be supposed, there are evidently some principles in his nature which interest him in the fortune of others and render their happiness necessary to him, though he derives nothing from it except the pleasure of seeing it. The virtuous man," Adam Smith went on, "desires not only to be loved, but to be lovely, not only praise, but praiseworthiness." And he continued, "To feel much for others and little for ourselves, to restrain our selfish and to indulge our benevolent affection constitutes the perfection of human nature." Did Adam Smith have the virtuous man in mind when he conceived the idea of capitalism and free market? So why is capitalism, as he conceived, not working the way they should? Why is there market failure? Is it possible that capitalism works only if men or women are virtuous and play by the fairness principles? These questions relate to the theme of next year's meeting, Capitalism in Question. So I encourage you to ponder these and many other related questions when you prepare your papers for the meeting in Orlando. A related question that I have been wondering about is whether compassion is necessary for survival. I wonder what would Charles Darwin have to say or think about the role of compassion in survival. After all, survival of the fittest result from competition, natural or social, animal or human. At least that was my understanding until I found out that my understanding of Charles Darwin is incomplete also. In a recent article titled "Darwin's Compassionate View of Human Nature," written by Paul Ekman, a prominent psychologist, described the main thesis in Darwin's greatest unread book called The Descent of Man. In this book, Darwin explained the origin of what he calls sympathy or compassion, describing how human and animals come to the aid of others in distress. He wrote that the highest moral achievement is concern for the welfare of all living beings, human and non-human. And that is why Ekman concluded in this article, whatever its origin, Darwin proposed that natural selection would favor the occurrence of compassion. So, does it mean that the kindest may be the fittest of all for survival? Today, there's an increasing body of scientific evidence using a variety of psychological and biological measures and neuroimaging techniques that compassion not only stimulates one's pleasure center, the happiness part of our brain, but also leads to decrease in biological markers of stress and an increase in immune functioning. So this means compassionate people are happier and healthier, and they may last longer too, okay? Now, I have summarized some preliminary observations of acts of compassion and research on compassion through my wandering around the world of practice in other disciplines. Now, let me come back home and take stock of compassion within the Academy. Did you know, well, you probably already know, the Academy stands for volunteerism. Each year, about 6,000 people, my data is already outdated, so when talk about 6,000 reviewers, more than 20% of our membership, volunteer for the Academy in some capacity. They might serve on the board of governors as division leaders, committee members, reviewing for the journals and our annual meetings, and as journal editors. Speaking of journals, I want to share with you a piece of exciting news about compassion research in the Academy. The October issue of AMR will be a special forum on the topic of caring and compassion through the organizational lens. There were almost 100 submissions, lots of interest on this topic. This issue will have 9 papers on various compassion-related topics. Now, I'm sorry I don't have enough time to describe each paper for you in detail, and I would love to. So I encourage you to read them. As the guest editors state in their introduction essay, this special forum opens up new possibilities of research that contributes to both knowledge and a better world. In recent years, Academy has grown tremendously, and most of the growth is among our international members. A couple years ago, we formally introduced the Hospitality Suite and a mentoring program for new members. The suite is a place where our new members can hang out and meet new or other seasoned members, and the mentoring program has been a great success. Each year, almost 200 mentor-mentee pairs gather at the Academy, and this year will be no exception. The mentor helped the mentee to navigate this large meeting, over 10,000, 11,000 people, and almost 2,000 sessions. Similar efforts are going on at a divisional level. Here are just a few examples. Some divisions engage in community service projects. Some provide financial assistance or support to members who otherwise could not afford to come to the meeting. And some do extra things to foster interaction and engagement throughout the year. Now, I want to mention one project that is changing a country. Some members of the MSR division they were doing an intervention in the kingdom of Tonga, which is an island country in the South Pacific, teaching the people there about compassionate leadership. And this intervention was instrumental in the king's decision to introduce democracy into his monarchy. And this project certainly is making a huge difference for the people in that society. Okay. Now I come to the Africa Project, spearheaded by our past president, Jim Walsh. Africa is a rapidly growing economy with a corresponding need for business education and research. In the past year, we've held 2 research methods workshops for young African scholars, one in Ghana and one in Rwanda. This is a 6-day intensive course on scientific research methods with a focus on management issues in the African context. A total of 30 young scholars were trained, and the reactions were awesome. Here's one statement from one of them. Okay. And he said, "The Africa Faculty Development Workshop has planted a seed on the African continent. Our pledge to the faculty is that we will irrigate it, and we will make sure this seed grows. We promise you we are going to make an impact." Awesome. Now, I think you all know about the Africa Conference next January. It's going to be a history-making event for the Academy because it is the first time in our 72 years that we have a conference outside of the United States and Canada. It's going to be a very different conference, a very different model from our annual meetings, and it has a capacity of only 400, 450. So if you want to go, I encourage you to sign up early. All of these extra activities in the recent years, especially this past year, along with our annual program, cannot happen with the support of the headquarters team, all 23 of them. Each of them has a huge heart. And they work day and night, 24/7 for all of us, and I really mean it, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. I'm speaking based on my personal first-hand experience with this team. They are truly indispensable and incredible. Now, I think you would all agree that we have a great academy, don't you? Do you agree? However, we are not exempt from challenges, and I've mentioned some sufferings. I've organized these challenges into 3 main themes, and they are not unfamiliar to you. The first one is the research practice gap, that our research is not relevant to society. The second is the claim that our business schools are doing more harm than good. And the third is the terrible life for young scholars in this field. Many past presidents of the Academy has voiced these concerns in their presidential addresses. And some of us do remember Don Hembrick's speech in 1993 on what if the Academy really mattered. Mike Kitt, Andy Van der Ven, Tom Cummings, and most recently Angelo Danesi, among many others, all have made the same call that we should do a better job of connecting our research to the world around us. About the second theme, we've heard from Jeff Pfeffer, Henry Mintzberg, Sumatra Ghoshal, and many others about the problems of business schools not producing the right kind of students or the right theories. Joe Padoni, former dean of the Yale School of Management, captured this sentiment. He said, "Some people have come to believe that business schools are harmful to society, fostering self-interest, unethical, or even illegal behavior among their graduates." What about life in the organization of science? In his presidential address, Dave Wetton talked about what matters most and urged us to care for and support each other. Rosalie Tong talked about balancing educating the head with educating the heart and called for mutual respect and admiration. Ken Smith called for open-mindedness and compassion for others. And just 2 years ago, Jim Walsh discussed how journalists and rankings have taken away the sacredness of our scholarship. These issues run deep in our field, and they are actually interconnected. When our work does not matter, others rightfully would question our legitimacy. When we are only judged by how many papers we publish in certain journals and not whether our research is important to society, we would lose meaning in the work we do. When these problems exist, how can we feel good about ourselves? When we are under stress, how can we have compassion for others? So when you look at this list, it does not convey a very healthy or happy academy. Nancy Adler of McGill University has repeatedly thrown us this challenge in her writings. She said, "Do we have the courage to imagine possibilities, even when our most trusted colleagues consider these possibilities to be unrealistic, unattainable, foolish, irrational, or career-limiting?" So you see, these challenges have prevented us from engaging in the serious management problems in organizations or the serious social issues in our societies. Now, at this point, I want to share a story about one of our members who is putting compassion into his research and his teaching. And this is Hans Hansen. Hans was an assistant professor when he started his research and is still deeply engaged in it. His research focuses on death penalty defense teams whose overarching goal is to save their clients' lives. Hans' research combines participant observation and ethnomethodological inquiry with narrative theory. His goal is to simultaneously enhance scholarly understanding of teams, advance justice, and save lives. He helps the defense teams to construct different narratives of the defendant's stories. And using this method, the defense lawyers have succeeded in 34 of the 35 cases under his study. And before that, more than 90% of the convicted defendants received the death penalty. Now, 34 lives saved. And the reality is that Hans is working against two currents in our field, an unpopular methodology and an unusual research context. And to engage in such research takes courage. Fortunately, I know there are many scholars in the academy young and experienced, like Hans, are doing work that matters to society. Just look at the program in this meeting in Boston that Dwayne showed us. There are many, many compassionate topics. But unfortunately also, there are many, many others who feel less free to do so like Hans, more than we would like. Otherwise, we won't have these challenges. Now, Hans's research fits the theme underlying the idea of engaged scholarship, which is a major movement introduced by Ernest Boyer for transforming higher education. Engaged scholarship is about faculty members Having a profound respect and empathy for the phenomena, the people, or the problems that we study, and the views of others for addressing them, whether they're practitioners, students, or academics in some other disciplines. By engaging relevant stakeholders, we are more likely to direct our research towards larger and more humane ends. In other words, engaged scholarship calls for more compassionate research and less dispassionate research. As Boyer said in his final speech, quoting Oscar Handlen, one of the greatest historians of our time, and Handlen said, "Scholarship has to prove its worth not on its own terms, but by its service to the nation and to the world." And I ask us, has our scholarship lived up to this challenge? After studying compassion so far, I have come to a much better understanding and appreciation of the deep meaning of this quote by Einstein. Concern for making life better for ordinary humans must be the chief objective of science. Never forget this when you're pondering over your diagrams and your equations. So you see, without compassion, our research could be put to wrong use, or we could be conducting the wrong kind of research, or research that serves no one because it is just a piece of paper, a PDF file in our computer, or a line in our curriculum vitae. While you might say, Einstein lived a long time ago, it is a different world today. True, we are in a different world, but is it a better world? Let's hear what John Holdren, the current advisor, science advisor to the US President and former president of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, said in his address at the association's 2007 meeting. He said, "I believe that every scientist and technologist should take 10% of his or her own professional time and effort to working to increase the benefit of science and technology for the human condition and to decrease the liabilities. The challenges demand no less." So in science, compassion is still relevant today, if not more. So the Academy has some challenges, but as Jim Walsh said in his speech 2 years ago, in our heart of hearts, we are not a calculatively self-interested group of scholars. I agree, and I say compassion is in our genes. We are good people. We are smart people, and we can live up to the noble ideal as stated in our vision statement, which you saw earlier. That is, we inspire and enable a better world through our scholarship and teaching. And I can tell you, the Board of Governors of the Academy has been working hard on your behalf. The board is well aware of these challenges that we face. You've seen some new initiatives, and there will be more. In fact, we're announcing a new initiative right here in Boston. In response to our members' call for more Academy journals to publish their work, we will have a new journal called Academy of Management Discoveries, AMD. So you might wonder, what kind of journal is this? It's not AMJ, it's IMR, it has to be something different. What is the difference? The mission of this new journal is on the flyer on your seat. You might be sitting on it. And we are calling for an editor, calling for nominations for an editor. So please show that you care by suggesting or nominating people who you know will do a good job with this new journal. So please have confidence in the Academy. Please have confidence in the Academy's leadership. You have a compassionate Board of Governors. As amazing as the board is, they cannot do it alone. It requires concerted efforts from all of us, including those of us who have gray hair on our heads, and I do have gray hair on my head, so that includes me. I call for all members of the Academy to join the board in taking up the conviction of courage to change. All of us need to lead the change, each in our own ways, and this is the power of the collective. Each person can make a difference. Together, we can have the potential to change the world, and I hope you will respond to this compassion challenge. I have 4 questions, and I would like you to respond with either yes or no. Now, I would like it a lot if you would shout out your answers, but you might be shy to do so. If that's the case, that's all right. You can whisper to the person sitting next to you or quietly to yourself. But I hope you will respond loudly to show that you care. Are you ready? Great. All right. Do we have the courage to engage in research that inspires managers to lead compassionately? Teaching that develops our students to act justly? Caring that enables our young colleagues to make a difference in the society? And service that leads to a better world and a better academy? Thank you. Yes, we can, and yes, we do. So with our conviction to be more compassionate, we will have a great academy in which senior faculty will do their best to improve the research environment for junior faculty so that they can become the best they can be. And junior faculty can hold on and live out their intellectual ideals. And doctoral students can feel free to find their true calling and follow their hearts. Compassion will ensure that the academy will enable and inspire a better world. And remember, a compassionate academy will be a happier and a healthier academy, and it will last longer too. And this bookmark, which you should have on your seat also, is a gift to you, because I want to thank you for making the Academy a special place and for your compassion that makes this world a better place. And now I invite you to sit back and enjoy a song titled "We Are Called" as the conclusion to this presentation. Thank you, and have a great meeting.